everyone, Jerry Tabatt with you with another edition of our military community. Got a great show for you today. All the rebuilding and everything that's going at Tyndall, getting all the new people coming in. What do these families do? Some of them, of course, can't even speak English. They come in from foreign countries and things of that sort. So we're going to sort all this out today, and I got two great guests with me that know what they're talking about, and hopefully we can have everybody know how we get these people acclimated to our military community. First of all is Alicia Aguilera. She is the community, and I got to get this right, cohesion coordinator out at Tyndall. And then Tim Bowers over here. We didn't have all the room to put everything he's titled, but he's the community's readiness consultant for military and family readiness. So welcome to both of you today. I'm glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
We always like to let our audience know a little bit about one another. So Alicia, tell me about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Alicia Aguilera, like you said on the introduction. I've only been at Tyndall about 3.5 years. I came here from Guam, kind of very military, right? And I was fortunate enough to land the best job, I think, on Tyndall Air Force Base, the Community Cohesion Coordinator. And what I do is I pretty much have a pot of money to boost morale and hold team building events. And I do a lot of base events and pretty much a party type planner for all
I know what you're talking about there. Myself, 20 years in the military, and you go from base to base, and you're kind of lost. Tim, you and I have kind of met before, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with this title that takes 4 weeks to read.
Yes, indeed. Good to see you again, Jerry. Tim Bowers, Community Readiness Consultant, working for Military and Family Readiness Center at Tyndall Air Force Base. So essentially there's core programs as it relates to the readiness and resiliency of the military family. So that's with active duty service member and those spouses and children at home. And the elements of the program, of course, is to ensure that family readiness will actually elevate mission readiness. So we have to make sure, as it relates to personal financial readiness, that the financial household is in order, so that service member doesn't have their money on their mind or their mind on their money when there's a mission to hold. So a lot of different programs. Primarily, I work with transition assistance, those separating service members that are or retiring service members, their pursuit, employment, education, or entrepreneurship.
We'll get into that in just a little bit here on that, Tim. But and Tim brought up a point, Alicia, that I want to bring up also with you and let you talk a little bit about that. A lot of people don't realize that a military man with a family, it's not just the military man that's in the military, it's the entire family. And how do you kind of work with this? Because I know from my experience at different bases, people come in, they're strange. What are the first things they want? Where am I going to live? Where am I going to put my kids in school? Do I have to work? What's the cost of living? How do you start working with them on this? It must be challenging.
It is. First of all, moving's nerve-wracking in the first place. And then when you're moving, like you said, from overseas or to overseas, you're in a whole different country. You don't just think about yourself going to work. Your kids have to go to school. You have to find a place to live, the housing market, all the things. So it's really difficult. And when somebody comes in and they have challenges, as a support helping agency, which is pretty much what my office is and yours as well, we point them in the right direction. Good. Because they might actually not even know what they need. So if somebody comes to me and starts talking to me about housing and how difficult it is, or maybe they can't afford the deposit on the utilities or things like that, I would actually walk them over across the building, and I would take them over to Military and Airman Family Readiness Center, and they have services which they can set them up with financial counseling and all the things. But as a whole, we all kind of lean on each other in a way to help them, because they don't know what they need. We might not know what they need, but together, it's just pieces of the puzzle that kind of work it out and ease their fear with the transition.
And that transition, and you said pretty much, Tim, that you work with those that are probably separating or something of this nature. How big a problem is it for today's young serviceman or lady and their families to transition from the military to the civilian life? Because there's some big changes. First of all, there's no free medicine anymore. There's no free health care. There's no free education for them and that. So what do you do to get that transition going?
And that's the gist of it, Jerry. In essence, the tools and resources are there. It's somewhat of a challenge, but preparation is key. We know that as service members. So we try to, of course, there are stakeholders on base, stakeholders off base. So we try to make sure that those problems that we can empower them to solve, that we make reference outside the fence line. But again, that service member that's transitioning, they're not transitioning alone, they're transitioning with a spouse. So we assist the military spouse. There's a component of our program, transition and employment assistance for military spouses, because they may choose to relocate from this area. So we try and prepare them through resume writing workshops, seminars, one-on-one individualized counseling and things of that nature.
And the good thing about it is they don't get charged for it. It's all free.
Absolutely free.
Now, Alicia, we were talking before we started this interview. You said something about helping military families that come in from overseas that are not even citizens yet, and they have this language problem. What do you do?
Yeah. So that's a tough one, especially, let's say you're married to a foreign national, and they come over here and their English just isn't really up to the expectations of society, right? And then you deploy, and your spouse is set on base, and they have a language barrier and all those things. So another thing I would do is walk them over, see what resources there are. A lot of people, you would think that they would already have their citizenship and their naturalization paperwork done when they get to their first duty station. Well, come to find out, a lot of them don't. They still need additional assistance and help from the legal office, from their chain of command, and those are the things that we would step by step help them do. And on Tyndall Air Force Base, I believe it's the Hispanic Heritage Committee has actually took focus on that problem and that step, and we actually have some airmen who are volunteering their time and their knowledge of the process to help them individually get what they need and their paperwork in order.
And that's one of the things that's so great about this community. Bay County, I don't care, you can say what you want to, but they love the military here. And I know, Tim, you work very closely with different agencies downtown. What's the response if you was to call up, say, somebody about education, and if you wanted to call Gulf Coast or FSU and say, what can these young men and women do? Do they work closely with you?
Absolutely. I mean, we have strong partnerships with those institutions like Gulf Coast State College, Career Source, Gulf Coast, as it relates to employment and the preparation for employment. But yes, we have a lot of contact with those that are already ingrained, and we make those referrals on a daily basis.
So you can actually contact the agencies in representing what they do, and then you can get the military members into those agencies.
Absolutely.
That's something that I really didn't realize either. I didn't know that you guys had that authority to do that. Alicia, language is becoming a bigger problem now, especially now that Tyndall is starting to build back. They're not getting the people from transferring from base to base. They said they're bringing them in from overseas, and you're bringing them from Europe. They're coming in from Asia. That is tough. That is tough. What is probably the biggest challenge you see now to get these families into this community?
So I feel like one of the biggest challenges is making them feel like they're part of the community.
Yes.
So your perception is your reality, and if you feel like you're not part of the community, you're not going to feel welcomed and you're not going to feel involved. So a lot of the things that we do on Tyndall is outreach to the community. Not sure if you knew, but earlier this week, we actually had a Tyndall's Connects Expo. And what that did, it showcased interests, hobbies, groups. It allowed people to find their people. And that was from sewing to garden club to any kind of hobbies. And it was on base and off base. So feeling connected is one of the biggest hurdles, but the most important steps to take. If you find your people, you feel connected, you're able to overcome language barriers and cultural differences.
That's the deal. And Tim, I see you shaking your head right there. It doesn't make any difference what language you speak, what color you are, what country you come from. We're all people. We all have the same basic needs and wants and desires. And that's where you guys really help out.
Absolutely. And as Alicia alludes to, it's that connection. I'm working with a military spouse now who has English as a second language, not very fluent with it. But as it relates to his resume, he has those education credentials, he has the experience, but he's not fluent in English. So maybe doing an interview or as he continues to network, he's not going to be able to really articulate or communicate as he would in his native language.
Yeah.
But again, it's not to give them a piece of paper, say, okay, here you go. It's to, if the resource isn't within the fence line, then we got to make that connection so that they can get there. And that's when they have that sense of belonging, that sense of military community, and that's what we're all about.
And that's what's so good about it. I was reading online, I looked at a few things. You had, not too long ago at Tyndall, you had a luau.
Yeah.
And I was reading that, and that was amazing, the things that you guys were doing there. And I want you to tell our audience today, what is the purpose of this, and how do you get this all arranged, and how do you get people to come in, both from off base, on base? That's a great deal.
Yeah, it's a lot of networking. It's a lot of connecting. But the luau, it happened to be, it was just themed a luau, but it happened to be right after the aftermath of the very large fire that happened in Hawaii. So in honor of that, but also to celebrate and create connectiveness within the community, I was able to reach out to a local dance group. It was lady hula dancers, and I actually brought them on, and the head of the dance group, she lived in Hawaii, and she had deep roots in that community. So she was able to open a prayer and send off, good vibes and good things for all the people that went through that tragic fire. And then it's really difficult to not only connect with people off base, but get them to come onto base to want to be involved,
right,
because the military kind of scares off people if they're not
they're
not really knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, and that Tim, I want you to expand on that a little bit. That I still today talk to people and they say, well, I could maybe help some out there in the base, but these people don't want to talk to me anyway. They got the military. That's not true. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is to ensure, of course, that the information and referral that we have at our disposal, that first and foremost, that active duty service member has knowledge of those programs. And of course, we are telling them, okay, now that you have it, pass it on to the spouses and connect with others, because it's really and truly it's all about that connectedness, and of course, being able to connect with others, the diversity within the military, understanding the different cultures, and so that we continue to treat each other with dignity and respect. And when you have that sense of community and that connectedness, you're better able to do that.
And if someone wants to get a hold of you, what do they do? Let's say you have a business or something downtown that says, hey, you know what? I specialize in this. I'd like to share it with the groups that you have. How can they do that?
Just call our center at 850-283-2400. And of course, that information will be related to that core compliant expert or that program manager. Take for instance, right now we're coordinating the Tyndall Job Fair that's going to happen on September 20th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we're targeting about 50 or so local employers, and we're compiling and consolidating. We almost are close to that target, but they continue to call and say, hey, I'm interested, I have some job opportunities and openings. What do I need to do to get a space? So now I'm working to, get them registered and ensure that they can have base access through that entry access list, and they meet all those credentials, and we're welcoming them to help our service members and our families, the spouses.
And that's the way it should be. We're all in this together, helping one another. Alicia, one of the things that I still have questions on too is new people coming in from overseas. It doesn't make any difference if male, female, children, whatever. There is a huge cultural difference. How do you try to work that using their culture, respecting them for their culture, but at the same time showing them what the American culture is all about and how we can kind of mesh this all together?
Yeah, so to the best of our ability, we try to be inclusive, whether it comes to the dishes we serve, the food that's prepared at the events, all the way up to the decorations and the things like that. We try to be culturally sensitive, but also open-minded.
Yes.
And Tyndall's fortunate enough to have a lot of private organizations that they group together, like I said, networking people of your kind, same interests, same values, things like that. And those groups put on their own showcase. And for example, lumpia sales. You know, everybody loves lumpia. It's delicious. And if you've never had it,
I've never had it.
You've never had it?
Never
Oh,
had
it's delicious. Yeah, and they put on lumpia sales, like bake sales, and the base just loves it. And you can go out there, you can speak to them about their culture, you can, they'll show you how to cook it. A lot of things like that is a way to connect everybody to learn about each other, to be accepting, and then to just feel heard, actually, just to feel heard.
Yeah, and if I can add, the relocations program that is under our umbrella, it really begins even before they get here. So they're assigned a sponsor, and we develop sponsorship packages. So we will liaison with the Tourist Development Center or Bay County Chamber of Commerce. Those, attractions and things that Bay County offer, we will have that at their disposal, and we'll send it to that family even before they get here, so they have some knowledge of what's available, the restaurants or the attractions on Panama City Beach or in the area. Yeah. And we want them to feel welcome when they get here. So we set the tone for that acceptance even before we get here.
I'm gonna ask both of you now, and you feed off one another, whatever. But what do you think are the top 3 challenges to either a family coming in to Tyndall or a family going into civilian life out of Tyndall? Let's start with you, Alicia.
So I might lean more towards the families with children, because it's just a lot on your mind. When you have kids, it's like you need to get them set up before you care about yourself. You always worry about your children more than you worry about yourself. So those with kids, it's very difficult to know your school, your zone.
Right.
Florida, it's a choice school. Well, a lot of people don't know about that. So being able to research and talk to other spouses and talk to other people who have been here or have children in the area, it really helps you ease your fears, and getting a pediatrician, getting your kids in school, getting the bus routes, trying to figure out where you're going to live, within 10 days of arriving to a whole new state or a whole new country. It's really difficult. But when you have that network of people, and you have your chain of command and your supervisor and your coworkers, and you have those people that you can go and talk to, and they have resources, and like you said, the welcome package. It makes a world of difference. If they didn't have those things, I don't think it would be successful on any side.
And one thing that's probably helping you a lot as far as the schooling is we are so lucky to have retired Army General Mark McQueen as our superintendent, because he understands and he is so open to working with the schools and that military community. So we're great in that respect. What about you, Tim? Top 3 things about people that are, say, leaving the military and staying in this community?
I would say the needs of the family. And as Alicia alluded to, that's going to be a bit comprehensive, but it's even more compounded if there are special needs children in the household. Ensuring that if they do stay here, that they're able to keep their providers, or if they're going to relocate, we try and integrate and leverage some of the things that we have so that they can, have that foreknowledge when they begin to get to their location to help. So it's the needs of the family, a special needs family in the military. And then, of course, just being prepared for that transition. And what we, want to get the word out is that you need to start that process as soon as possible. It's not necessarily when you have those orders in hand, but if you're considering, if it's a limelight possibility that you're going to be retired in a couple of years, begin that process as soon as you're able to. And what we provide for you, the tools, the resources, when you have that at your disposal, and you're able to, put it into action, then it's going to help, with that mission success, so to speak.
Just piggybacking on that with Mr. McQueen, he actually brings a lot to the table, because not only does he understand military life, but he understands that families have special needs. And I was at a meeting with him, and he made it very clear that if military families needed some kind of special education or some kind of special need, that he was willing to go above and beyond to make that connection between Tyndall Airmen and getting their dependents where they need. to be in education.
And that's what's so good about it, because let's face it, with Tyndall rebuilding, you don't have a high school on base, number one. And number two, you still are not at capacity you need for all of these children coming in. So that is a big thing to get going on that.
It is.
Let's change gears here a little bit. Let's say that you're working with a family now, and you're giving them some advice in that. Do you follow up with them, or do you just say, okay, this is what we're going to do, now you need to do this, this, and this. Okay, next person in line.
So fortunately for me, and probably for your office as well, you don't just see them once. You might see them in the
Absolutely.
commissary. You might see them in the BX. You'll even see them out in the street when you're out to dinner, off base with your family. You'll see them again because they're part of the community.
Yeah.
And you'll remember them, and they'll remember you and how you helped them. And you'll make a connection without even knowing it. It's like they come in as a customer, but as soon as you help them or point them in the right direction, you'll see them again, and it's one of those, oh hey, how are you? It's more than just a customer
Absolutely.
relationship.
I always say it's like you build that family. It doesn't make any difference if you're wearing the uniform or if you're associated with it or you're a civilian. We're all a family, so let's build that. Tim, what about you? Once they decide, okay, I'm getting out, and you're helping them out here, you're showing them different aspects and everything. What do you do as follow-ups?
Well, I mean, it's like Alicia is saying, it's case management in a sense. It's not intensive where it's a lot of records and things like that. But we have to. What I understand is that there are congressional mandates, there are requirements that they have to complete prior to transitioning. But even when the check is in the box, that doesn't, end there. You still want to re-engage and talk to them and understand that, okay, I haven't forgotten everything that I heard you tell me or in the workshops or seminars. So this is my plan. I'm on the path, and it's just some monitoring and, just being aware of the progress that they're making. And, sometimes you got to nudge them a little bit more.
Right.
And sometimes they'll
Right.
bring a smile to your face because you've heard what he's like, yeah, success.
Yeah. Alicia, if you can't connect a family with something in our local area here, do you have the authorization to make calls to other cities or other bases, other military organizations to see if you can get something to help these families out?
Absolutely. Especially because, Hurricane Michael took such a tremendous toll in the local area. For example, if you needed a cardiologist to perform some kind of special treatment or special procedure, 100% I would reach out to the nearest base or the base that had the largest hospital in the cardiac section. For example, Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. They have a large hospital, surgery hospitals, full up running. Here at Tyndall, we don't have that yet, right? So I reach out to all bases, and if it's overseas, it's overseas. It doesn't really matter, because when it comes to the mission and taking care of families, it's not just borders on land. It's global. So if I have to reach out to somebody, and I have to reach out to just get advice or in the right direction, it's no problem. Actually, we don't even mind, coming in early or staying over late to meet the time difference. Our whole goal is to connect people.
Which leads me to another question on that too. Let's say you find somebody that needs the help in Ellis out in Nevada. Mm-hmm. How do they get there? Does the Air Force pay for it?
Yeah, so the Air Force it's one of the benefits that I love the most about the Air Force. It's quality of life. They invest so much money into their people and their quality of life that there are special programs and special statuses and organizations who will help fund things, for anything from the Red Cross to the First Sergeants Association, to a TDY fully paid for by the government or by TRICARE in order to get you or your dependents or somebody who needs help, the help it is. There's a lot of ways. And even if it's not a borderline, yes, we'll pay for it kind of thing, we have connections where there are special agencies and there are just benefits and scholarships and donations that we can reach out and we can use.
Absolutely.
Those things. Air Force Aid Society.
Grant funds, loans.
And this networking for you is awfully important too, isn't it?
It is, and of course, understanding that I might not be the one with the answer or be able to help them solve that problem, but we have that connectedness so that we can make those warm handovers or those referrals that they need to continue towards getting that remedy or whatever they need taken care of, and it's great. And of course, when she made mention of contacting another installation, across the enterprise we have tracking systems and records and notes. So if she makes that referral to Nellis, then they're going into a system, or if I make that referral, they're seeing the history of that problem, so to speak, so they can not start from ground zero and be able to continue forward. Great.
It's amazing, and seeing the smiles on your faces this morning. You guys love what you do, don't you?
Yes, I really love it. I honestly, when I got the job, I was kind of intimidated by it, and I wanted to help every best I can, but I would not change this job for anything. I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I learned this morning that I have the second best job at Tyndall because Alicia said she has. I thought I had the first. I thought I had the best job at Tyndall, but I guess it's the second best.
Is he passing the buck right now, Alicia? Hey, we got 3 minutes to go, and we're running out of time here. But I want to give each one of you. What are your final thoughts on this, Alicia?
So, for me, it boils down to the base is going to be the base of the future, and it is growing every day. The skyline changes every day. And with each newcomers briefing that we hold, it increases the capacity on base by not only the service member, but their dependent too. I want to say 20 or 30 people each time we hold a newcomers base, and they all come with. Most of them come with a spouse, a dependent, 1, 2, 5, 6 kids, and all of them need resources. So the biggest thing is Tyndall's growing, and there are going to be more needs, and the community is going to be a two-way street. The community is going to help us, and we're going to help them. And we're going to bring a lot. Tyndall's going to bring a lot to Panama City, and Panama City is going to support Tyndall a lot because of the partnerships.
I always say, if it wasn't for Tyndall and the retired military here, Bay County would have trouble existing. Mm-hmm. Tim, your final thoughts.
It's basically been said. I mean, Tyndall's military community is the Bay County community. And of course, we live here, we work here, we play here. And when you see and hear us, yes, we have that component that, active duty service members, there's a mission outside of that fence line that they're involved with. But, the readiness and resiliency of that, it's the mental health of the service member and family, emotional health, the spiritual health, physical health. So everything has been, brought into play to ensure that that whole person is, ready and resilient.
And the big thing is people. You can do the job if people reach out to you, but we have to emphasize to individuals that they need to approach you and talk to you about it.
Absolutely.
All right. Phone number if someone would like to call and talk to you or find out if there's any questions about services or anything.
So I actually have a couple different phone numbers. You can reach me on the same number that he had said. And then you can reach me at 850-283-2267. You can send an email to the Unite program. You can even Google the Tyndall Unite program. I'll pop up. There'll be a page. There's a link to send me an email. Any business out there, anybody in the community who wants to give back and wants to be part of the base and anything.
Sounds good. Tim, quick number.
Quick number 850-283-2400, and essentially anyone with access to the base, a DoD CAC holder or a veteran with a healthcare card, they have access to our programs, and we're there to work one-on-one with them, make those referrals, group. We're here, we're with the government, and we're here to help.
All right. We're out of time. I could spend another hour talking. Thank you, both of you, for coming in, and thank you for what you're doing out there. We really appreciate it. Unfortunately, that's it. This is another edition of our military community. Please watch this as many times as you want to and get those phone numbers and everything. Until next time, I'm Jerry Tabatt with our military community. Have a great day, everyone.